But this is a question I posed to Chris last week as it relates to Dak Prescott, who might be available after the season. Kirk Cousins might be available after the season. Would Kirk Cousins be better than Tua in that offense? Maybe. I mean, there's a reason Kyle Shanahan wanted Kirk Cousins every year that he could possibly get him until that ship sailed for good because they found Brock Purdy. Mike McDaniel came from that offense. Maybe Cousins would be better. Maybe Dak. I said to Chris, and I'll ask you this question, would you rather have Tua on a $50 million a year contract now or Dak at 60 next year? If you're Miami.
Well, does Dak at 60 mean I don't have Tyreek Hill for the rest of his career? That's the question that I would ask myself, because if I can have Dak and Tyreek and Jalen Waddle and I got Achane and I got Mostert or whoever else, McDaniel is scheming in the run for, and I think that he can scheme for pretty much anybody. That's his deal. I mean, I think Dak is better probably than Tua Tagovailoa. Yeah, I do. I would probably rather have Dak, but that is contingent on, do I still have Tyreek Hill? Because if that's the case, then yeah, you have a better core, I think, than you would with Tagovailoa. There's the injury stuff with Tagovailoa, there's the arm strength stuff with Tagovailoa, and that's sort of the way I would see it.
And I just think that the broader point is, in Miami, above the coaching staff, above a GM who is tied to Tua Tagovailoa. He just is. And so he's got an interest in seeing Tua fully and completely blossom into whatever his ceiling ultimately is going to be. And you don't want that to happen with another team if there is a higher level of performance out there to be accessed. The owner is the one who's going to make this call. And I think the owner would look at this and say, yeah, I keep hearing all these great things about Mike McDaniel and how he schemes up this offense. If I can give him a better quarterback, won't we be better? Is the reality here, and this is hard for the to-and-on crowd to accept. And there is a segment of Dolphins fans that understand. I mean, the Dolphins fan base is kind of a microcosm of society. You've got the very pro-Tua crowd, and you've got a quiet anti-Tua crowd. And they're not being as quiet as they've used to be. But I think the people who really understand the game are willing to at least look at this and ask the objective question, not necessarily answer it, but ask the what if. What if we had a different quarterback? Is he a product? Is his success post Brian Flores a product of Mike McDaniel? And ipso facto, I just like the sound of that. I don't know if it applies there. If we had a better quarterback, would that make us dramatically better? And I'll flip it around this way too. Let's say Stephen Ross would just get exasperated with Mike McDaniel and fire Mike McDaniel. He falls into that category of guys who would instantly land on his feet somewhere else, because one of these other teams that has the pieces that can't put it together schematically is going to say, give me that guy. To go back to my cousin Vinny, when the co-defendant stands up and says, I want him, there's going to be an owner out there that says, I want McDaniel to come in here and take these pieces I have offensively and turn them into, with all that stuff he does, that Shanahan-style scheming and the run game and, that little cheat motion they kind of accidentally discovered where the guy does the CFL split-second move to the line of scrimmage when maybe he shouldn't. That stuff that they've brought to the game, I would want that if I had the pieces, but not the scheming necessary to get the most out of them. So McDaniel's not the problem. The problem is McDaniel's so good. This is the potential problem. I don't want on me today. But the potential problem in Miami is McDaniel is so good, he's making Tua better than he really is. He's making him seem better. He's doing a magic trick where he's making Tua seem better than he really is. It's distinctly possible that that's the truth in Miami.
This reminds me of where the Rams were with Jared Goff, right? At like 2019, and before, right at this time, before he ended up getting paid in, I guess that was August, early September, whenever that was.
Somebody was saying, don't do it. Somebody on this show was loudly saying, somebody who wasn't working for the Rams at the time was loudly saying, don't do it.
Right. Yes, exactly. So then it becomes, all right, well, can that quarterback that you have get better, or do you need to go out and get a better quarterback? And then how do you get that better quarterback? Because that's what this is, right? Good quarterbacks don't just fall on trees and they're not just automatically available. Even though, Dak Prescott has the Cowboys over a barrel, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to want a change of scenery next offseason, depending on what he gets offered by Dallas or what Dallas offers him. Like, there's a lot of variables there. So what is it? The bird in the hand is better than the bush or whatever. I always get this saying.
All right, George Bush.
Like,
my God, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me can't get fooled again. I mean, that's up there. I didn't think Chris was working on Friday. What are you doing, Miles? What did they teach you at Columbia?
Not enough, obviously.
One of the most basic cliches in human existence. The bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Come on, George.
Two in the bush. Two in the bush. Okay. Yeah, my favorite Bush quote or ism, there because of my.
I know which one it is. I know which one it is.
GYNs aren't able to practice their love with women across the nation.
Practicing their love. He had the hand gestures too. Practicing their love. Okay. But to your point, Miles, something has happened in recent years where it used to be accomplished quarterbacks just on the right side of pass fail were never available.
Mm-hmm.
This year, we had plenty of veteran quarterbacks available. If you were looking, Baker Mayfield, Kirk Cousins, just to name two of several that were available. Here are the guys that might be available next year. In Pittsburgh, either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields won't be back next year. Maybe both will be available in free agency to anyone that would want them. Daniel Jones, by all appearances, is going to be available. Not that he's, a high-end option, but
Daniel Jones is going to be available.
That's the to me, that's the gladiator gif when Commodus is very impressed by the fact that the gladiators who are supposed to be completely destroyed survive a little bit. He's when you have to explain it, it's probably not very good. Geno Smith might be available. Do it again. Derek Carr might be available. Hey, if the Jets stink and Aaron Rodgers gets washed out along with everybody else, he's technically going to be available.
Maybe he'll run
Trey
for
Lance.
somewhere.
Listen, oh God, don't come to West Virginia, Aaron. Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, Jacoby Brissett, Drew Lock, Marcus Mariota, Zach Wilson, Mike White, Jake Browning, Case Keenum, Davis Mills, Mac Jones, Mason Rudolph. I know a lot of those guys aren't highly accomplished, but you put them with Mike McDaniel, and you know what's going to happen. So this is part of the analytics, the old school original football analytics. Before it was telling guys whether or not to go for it on fourth down, football analytics was all about how much am I getting for this financial investment in the player, and is there a cheaper guy out there who will be better or dollar for dollar better? Maybe not better, but dollar for dollar better. What can I do? What are my options? And all teams are always thinking beyond this year. What's going to be out there? What could I draft? Who could I sign? Those are all realities. And I think Stephen Ross, at this stage of his life, I mean, we got to be realistic. I mean, at times I say I hope I make it to 83. At times it's like, well, what's going to be going on? Like, how am I going to be like, living at 83? Maybe not. Maybe I won't want that. But if I make it, and by all appearances, Stephen Ross is healthy and vibrant and robust, how many more good years do you have left? Do you want to go all in, not in the Jerry Jones way, the real way, and try to get yourself a Super Bowl appearance and victory? The Dolphins are now 50 years removed from their last Super Bowl win. Clearly, Stephen Ross would like to get one during his time as owner, and I think those are all factors that go into this more complicated stew of what do we do with Tua. It's very easy to say he deserves a second contract. I think to get back to Jalen Waddle at 28.25, Tyreek may be at 35 by the time we get to week 1, if not sooner. Where does Tua fit into that mix? And do they just kick the can for a year, see what he does, and make a decision? Franchise tag, long-term contract, or let him go to the market and see what's out there or what isn't out there after this season?
Yeah, I think it's a tough decision because, like you said, I mean, you've been saying, Tagovailoa has outplayed what he's going to make this year, but he falls into that category of, man, I don't know if he's elite, right? He may have led the league in passing yards, but you don't have to be elite to lead the league in passing yards. And he's got so many good things going for him around him that you want to make sure that if you do pay him, you keep what you've got around him that makes him successful, right? So again, that's the Tyreek Hill contract, right? Jalen Waddle just got paid. That's great. Mike McDaniel obviously works very, very well with Tagovailoa. There's no doubt about that. So this is one of the more interesting dynamics, I think, that we were going to follow, not just through the offseason, but through the regular season, especially if Tagovailoa doesn't get that contract by week 1.
Yeah, because we're constantly going to hear this is the last year of his contract. He's only making $23.1 million. He led the league in passing last year, and if he's having a great year, it's going to be more and more glaring. And that's the other side of it too. He could prove himself at some point during the season where they just say, we got to pay him. If the fans, that's the one dynamic here that I haven't mentioned. The fans who love him, if they are sufficiently vocal, Stephen Ross may feel like he's backed into a corner to keep his fan base happy. I got to give them Tua. They want Tua. The mob has spoken. We want Tua. We want Tua. I got to keep Tua and hope that this works. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.